Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start doing a series of videos answering questions that I get via email or on the comments. Because what I realized is that if one or two people are asking the question, more than likely there's a whole bunch of people that have the same questions and just don't ask. And these are pretty good questions and interesting questions as well. So the first one that I'm going to cover today, as you saw in the title of this video, is how hard are winters in Alaska? And my answer to that is multifaceted. First thing I'm going to go through is where do you live in Alaska? What part of Alaska do you live? Because it differs depending on where you live. So for example, the best that I can tell you is from the perspective of where I live. Alright, so obviously most of you, if not all of you, already know that I live north of Fairbanks, Alaska, which is around the middle of Alaska. Now, where I live is usually about 10 degrees warmer than actually Fairbanks, Alaska. So for example, the coldest winter that I remember having here where I live was about negative 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And at the same time, in Fairbanks, down south of where I live, and in the city of North Pole, which is south of Fairbanks, it was ranging between negative 55 to negative 62 degrees. So those 10 to 15 degrees difference, let me tell you what, it makes a big difference. I always tell people, and they think I'm joking, but I say, listen, as long as it's above negative 40, so like if it's negative 30, negative 35, that is like great winter weather here in Alaska. In my opinion, that is. It's not super cold. You can actually go out and do stuff and not be hindered by the cold. For me personally, once it gets to like negative 40 or below negative 40, that's the kind of weather that really restricts the things that you can do here in Alaska. So it really depends on where you live, but realistically, all you have to do is just change with the weather. It's, for example, if you live in an area where it's really hot, what do? You take off layers, right? Or you put on layers that will allow you to wick off your heat. Well, here, whenever it gets really hot, depending on your activity level, you would put on more layers, and you would also add clothing that would allow any kind of moisture to wick up and out away from your body. Because you really don't want to get wet when it's really, really super cold outside, like in the negative 30s, 40s, or even 50s. The second thing that I would cover is the roads. You have to get used to pretty much driving on ice. And for some people, that may be like a nightmare. Oh no, driving on ice. But realistically, in the winter time, I would rather it be really cold all winter long than for us to have heat spurs, right? So if it's really cold, although the roads are pretty much ice, it's a lot safer to drive on really cold, icy roads than it is to drive on icy roads that have thawed a little bit and then refrozen. It just makes it that much slicker. In addition to that, the tires on the vehicles that we use here for winter time are winter tires. I don't know very many people, I know a few that use like all weather tires on their vehicles, meaning that they never change them. They keep them on all year round. But most people, from my understanding, in this area at least, they have summer tires or non-winter tires, and they have winter tires. I use two different types of tires, or I could say we use. Mrs. Alaska Prepper actually has a two-wheel drive truck. She drives an Avalanche that's two-wheel drive. And on her truck, we decided to go with Blizzak tires that are not studded. And I'll tell you what, her truck has never really gotten stuck. I mean, it got stuck once because she slid off the road a little bit, but it's never gotten stuck because the tires couldn't hold on to the road. I think maybe Mrs. Alaska Prepper was probably driving a little too fast for road conditions that day. But that's just me thinking out loud, ladies and gentlemen. So the Blizzak tires, they work great. And for all of the snow that we get here throughout the winter, even with a two-wheel drive truck with those Blizzak tires that we put on her truck for winter time, it does outstanding. When we first moved up here, I thought we were going to have to replace our vehicle with a four-wheel drive. and she really likes that truck, and it's a really good truck. We bought it brand new about 10 years ago or so, and it's done very well. It still drives like new. We just keep up with the maintenance and make sure that we take care of it. But she really likes that truck, so I'm really happy that she decided to keep that truck, and that truck does so well in the wintertime. Now, one other thing that we do to her truck in the wintertime is we make sure that we put about 500-600 pounds of sand on the bed of her truck. Now, yes, it does bring down the fuel economy a little bit, but it adds that extra weight on the back of the vehicle or on the back tires to give it that extra friction against the ground to make sure that she can go and stop as she pleases. Now, on one of my vehicles, on my Suburban that you've all seen, my black Suburban, I go with studded tires. And let me tell you what, I love those studded tires. It's like there's no difference between driving on ice with the studded tires than to driving on regular roads with regular tires. So I use studded tires on my Suburban. On my Tundra, the Alaska Prepper Homesteader truck that I got, I use Blizzaks as well, because those are just great tires. So we decided to go with Blizzaks on the Tundra. The Tundra is four-wheel drive, and so is the Suburban. And those tires and the combination thereof, they work great on those. So if you're planning on moving to Alaska, one of the expenses you will have when you first get here will be to get some winter tires for your vehicle. Another expense that you're going to have for your vehicle is going to be what's called winterizing your vehicle. And what that is it's some heating pads that are put like on the transmission and a heat plug that is put in your engine block to make sure that in the evenings or when it's really cold outside that you can literally plug your vehicle into a regular standard outlet, and that will go ahead and make sure that the heating pad is keeping your transmission and oil fluids warm, and that it's also keeping the fluids inside your engine warm as well overnight. Another thing is there's an option of having a heating pad under your battery to make sure that your battery doesn't freeze, or having what's called a trickle charger, which continuously trickle charges your battery overnight, and that also makes sure that your battery doesn't freeze and that it's fully charged for the next time that you're going to go ahead and turn it on. Now, as far as snowfall really varies here from year to year. I have to say that about 3 years ago was the heaviest snow that I've experienced since I've been here. About 3 years ago, every day before I went to work, I would pray and say, Lord, please let my roof hold up, because I had not removed any snow off my roof. And that year we had about 9, almost 10 feet of snow cumulatively all year long. And the good thing is that I never took any snow off my roof. It was tested, and I know now that my roof can hold 9 to 10 feet of snow. However, should that happen again, I will be hiring someone to come and take the snow off my roof. That's pretty odd for us to get that much snow in a year, at least for the time that I've been here, ladies and gentlemen. Everything I'm telling you is from the experience of only being here for about 7 or so years, okay? So take that, when I tell you something, it's coming from me being here 7 or so years. So that's what I've experienced though. However, what I've noticed is that on average we get about 6-7 feet of snow per year. Usually we get 1 or 2 pretty good snowstorms a year, meaning that we get at least 1.5, 2 or 3 feet of snow dumped on us in one time, right? So like in a 24-hour period or so. So the snow, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we just get used to. I consider snow in the winter like mowing grass in the summer. So in the wintertime, snow removal is almost kind of like doing your grass in the summer. Even though I don't have any grass here, I refuse to get grass because I don't want to be mowing in the summer and snow removal in the winter. So depending on where you live, it would be very smart for you to either have a good snow blower or a plow on your vehicle. I went ahead and upgraded from a snowblower to a plow because my road is pretty long, and although I snowblowed my entire road, which is probably about 150, close to 200 meters, I did that for like 4 years before I was able to afford to get a snow plow. Now, ways to heat your home. Now, there are several ways that people heat their homes here in Alaska, and again, it depends on where you live. So I'm going to tell you how I heat my home where I live. I have what is called a Toyotomi heater, and it is a very efficient fuel oil heater that is made in Japan. and we call them Toyos here. Here we call them Toyo stoves for the most part. And here in Alaska, Toyo stoves are like a dime a dozen. You probably, out of every 10 people that you know, probably 7 or 8 own one and heat their homes with one. And they are very efficient. I believe they go up to 40 or 45,000 BTU. And my home being roughly 1700 square feet, I heat my entire home with that one Toyo heater. All right. And usually throughout the winter, I only go through about 400 to maybe 500 gallons of heating fuel to feed that Toyo heater in order for it to heat my home. And that's in addition to a smaller Toyo heater that I have that I heat the underneath of my house where I have all of my utilities. So between those two Toyo heaters, the bigger one and the smaller one, I only go through about 400, maybe 500 gallons a year, depending on how cold that year gets. Oh, and I almost forgot to talk about wood, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I almost forgot to talk about wood is because I don't heat with wood. When I built my house, I was in a hurry to build it, and I really didn't have a floor plan set up to actually heat with wood. However, from what I understand here, wood goes for about $350, $380 a cord in the wintertime. In the summertime, you can get it cheaper because usually you can get it green, which means that you have to split it and allow it to dry before winter gets there so that it can burn more efficiently in your stove. I.e., the drier the wood is, the more efficiently it burns in your stove and the less creosote that it builds up in the pipes. So in the summertime, I've seen wood advertised for as little as like $200 for a cord, whereas in the middle of winter, if you want some wood to burn, you're going to be paying a really good premium. And now there are services that offer, or people that offer to deliver it to you, or you have to come and get it. There's also a lot of places, like I did this one year here in my property where I had a lot of wood that I needed to get rid of. So I advertised it on Craigslist and I said, hey, you come and get it, you leave me a clean yard, and you can have it for free. And someone actually took advantage of that. From my understanding, depending on the size of your home, the size of your stove, and all that kind of stuff, usually around 7 to 8 cord of wood is what's needed to heat an average home here in Alaska throughout the winter. And the cost of heating, ladies and gentlemen, we'll end up with how much it costs to heat. So here in Alaska, right now, the price of fuel oil, which of course fluctuates, it goes up and down with the price of oil. I just had my tanks topped off for this winter, and it was running about $3.59 or so per gallon delivered. Now, if you decide to go and get your own fuel, you can just go to a gas station or to a bulk fuel fill-up station where they actually fill you up in bulk. If you want to get like 100, 200, 300, however many hundreds of gallons you want to get, you can go get it there, and it's a lot faster than just sitting over a pump at a gas station getting it. And it runs probably about $2.59, $2.60, something like that if you get it yourself. So you're paying a premium of about $1 per gallon when you have it delivered. And what I do is about halfway through the winter, when I've gone through about half of one of my tanks, I go ahead and I call them and I have them come back and fill it up. I really have a warm and fuzzy feeling inside when I know that my fuel tanks are completely full. So I don't let them get down that much. Now propane, if you're heating with propane, that is very expensive to heat with propane here. Very expensive if you don't get your own propane. So for example, here in the bunker, I put out a video on Saturday, yesterday, and here in the bunker, I went ahead and filled my own 100-pound propane containers, right? And I paid, I think it was $3.99 per gallon, which is pretty pricey in itself, but it was $3.99 per gallon as long as I brought the propane cylinders to the gas station and I brought them back home and I moved them. Now I have a backup heating system for my home, which is a direct vent propane heater that's in my main home. It's a bigger one than the one that I have here in the bunker. Now for that propane system, I have the big 100-gallon bottles, not the 100-pound bottles, but the 100-gallon bottles, and those I cannot move by myself. So those, a propane company comes and fills those up once a year just to make sure that I have them topped off before every winter. And that system there feeds my emergency backup heater that I have installed in my home, and it also allows us to cook with our propane range. And on an annual basis, when we don't use the heater because we didn't have any long-term power outages, we go through about $200 worth of propane just for cooking. However, that propane, ladies and gentlemen, to have it delivered is very pricey. You're looking at $7, $7.50 a gallon. So it's almost twice as much to have your propane delivered here than it is if you were to go and get it yourselves. However, I choose to have it delivered for my backup system to the main house because I want to make sure that I have a lot of propane in case something happens where I need to use my heater as a backup for a long-term crisis. So that's going to be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the person that sent me this question. And like I said, I'm going to put out a few of these short videos out every week to answer questions in the hopes that it can satisfy those of you that have the same questions but never really asked. Other than that, thank you very much for joining in, ladies and gentlemen. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.